In this video, I'll be making the tail of the wing and ground effect flying boat, and there's also a surprise experience in this video. Following on from the last video, I finished making the bending die and guide. I decided to use a boring head to cut the semicircle, and that worked really well. It's fast and does a nice job. The aluminium tube has arrived and it's 1 inch diameter, 64 thousandths wall thickness. This is the rudder detailing the size and shape I'm going for. Whenever I have to do some tube bending, it's a bit like watching cricket. There's a general sense of confusion, but unlike cricket, tube bending is worth the time invested. The thing that makes tube bending so confusing is always dealing with a radius that is hard to take measurements from. We have to know where to start the bend so that it finishes in the correct place. If I take a measurement from the guide to a piece of tape before I make my bend, I can then measure how much tube has been used to make that bend. In this case, for a 74-degree bend, 93mm of tube has been used. I also want to know how much it has sprung back. It looks like it has sprung back by 3 degrees. We can work out that each degree of bend takes 1.3mm of material. I marked the start point of the bend, so now I can work out where the end of the bend will be for any given angle. If we know the start points and end points of each bend, then we can easily mark out where they all need to go on a straight piece of tube. A design decision I have seen on aircraft is using a tube within a tube. I really like this idea for 2 reasons. It's a much lighter way to build, as you only have the double wall thickness where strength is needed, and also if the outer tube was to develop a crack, it wouldn't propagate through both tubes. The tubing I'm using is 1 inch 64 thousandths wool and 7/8 64 thousandths wool. These nearly slide into one another, but not quite. A small 1/8 thou cut is all the smaller tube needs to nicely slide into the bigger one. The inner tube only needs to be held in place temporarily by a 1/8 aluminium rivet. This is only temporary, as more rivets and bolts will be going through this piece to hold it in place at a later date. These tubes aren't going to be welded because I'm not keen on welded parts for critical flight controls. They wouldn't do it on a commercial aircraft, so I'm not going to do it either. For the time being, I can only tape the rudder together as there are more decisions to make before going further, but you can get an idea as to the size. Now, something amazing happened to me a couple of weeks ago. I had some correspondence from a channel viewer called John Owen, who lives in the same county as I do. He is a helicopter pilot and flies out of Dunkerswell Aerodrome, which is the same place I've been doing some microlight flying. I had a message from him one day saying he's doing some flying and would I be available for a drop-in. A helicopter has never landed in our field before, and of course I accepted with a large amount of excitement. It was a perfect day for a helicopter visit, but the landing was a little challenging. Due to the wind direction, John had to come in low over the hedges and being careful of the overhead electric wires. After a chat, I was further amazed when he asked if I wanted a ride. Of course, I said, no way, I wouldn't get into one of those death traps. So off we went for a 25-mile round trip where I grew up. There is something very special about taking off and landing from your home. It's just an incredible experience, and I can't believe that putting videos on YouTube led to this amazingly generous gesture. So thanks go out to John Owen for making this happen. I still can't believe it did. It certainly reminded me why I like helicopters so much. They are just incredible machines. Here is a little clip of the challenging approach. I think it's worth a watch without the annoying narration. know about you, but I think that is just magical. What a day. The horizontal stabilizer I decided to make just over 2 meters wide. I would have gone for a 2.5 meter wide stabilizer, but I took some advice about having it narrower in order to make transport by road possible without dismantling the entire tail. The stabilizer is longer instead of wider in order to provide the correct area, but I can't do the same with the elevator. The elevator will be wider than the stabilizer and will have to be removed for transport, but that is better than removing and dismantling the entire tail. The vertical stabilizer, I've been thinking about how to fix it to the rest of the tail, so here is a drawing of the plan. There are loads of ways to do this, but I think I've decided this is the way I like the most. There will be some machining of inserts and clamps, but it will be strong, I feel. Of course, I'll keep you updated with further developments. If anyone is interested, I have another channel called Ben's Classic Bodywork, where I restore classic cars and make tools. Similar type of content with regard to building stuff, but dealing with less exciting ground-dwelling machines. Maybe one day I'll get Chitty Chitty Bang Bang to work on, and the two passions will converge. Thanks for watching.